All right, I mentioned previously that Express, the web application framework for Node.js, is based on top of or built on top of something called Connect middleware, and that's this here. And Connect is a little framework of middleware components, and these middleware components are just little chunks of functionality that help us piece together our web applications. I'd like to take a few more minutes now and talk further about this middleware and how we can incorporate it into our application and some of the interesting things that it can do for us, and then some of the rules for exactly how it works and everything. So, if we go here to the expressjs.com website, you go to the API reference page here, and then you'll see here it has a bunch of middleware here that it ships with and that you can work with. Since it's built on top of Connect, you can also go to the Sencha Labs Connect website here, and you can scroll down and see, oopsie, there we go, that it itself also has a ton of middleware components, some of which are already included in your Express apps by default. For example, this automatic query string parser, you saw that we already had access to rec.query, so Express is sort of including that already for us. And there's a bunch of interesting ones here. Most of the Connect middleware components you can actually refer to from within Express. So even though they don't show up in this list here, you can still use all of these components as if they were part of the Express framework as well. So to show you how these work, let's go back to our code here. And basically, you use them by using the use function on the app object, like this. And then you just specify the name of the component you want to use. So let's go ahead and use the connect logger component, and I'm going to add the dev flag, which gives it some nice little color and everything. And again, this is exposed from connect, but as I just said, Express re-exposes and surfaces them, so I don't have to add a require here to sort of create the connect namespace in my application. So I should be able to go here. Let's start our server up again. And now, when I go ahead and ask for localhost 8080 pages home, if I come back here, you should see that it's printing out now. Every time a request comes in, it prints out a little log entry with some color, and it tells me how long it's taking to do things and sort of what my response code to that was. These middleware components are added in the order that the use functions are called. So just like these routes, these are sort of also added to the sort of chain or layer of middleware components that are executed when you're working with your application. So I can use another one here, which is called, let's go back to the connect, and there's a really cool one here called response time. And let's use express.response time like that. And now I can, what that'll do is it'll actually add a new header to the output, and to tell the response time there. So I can run the server again, and now if I say curl-I localhost 8080 pages home, you'll see here, hopefully in our headers, that I now have this X response time header, which lets me see this in the browser, and maybe I want to use this for some sort of testing or performance monitoring suite or something. So again, I can add as many of these components as I want, and they're just executed in the order. And the way basically the whole Express and Connect ecosystem works is whenever any request comes in, it works its way one at a time, starting at the first, until one of these people says they want it, and then it stops working. So the way it works is these middleware components are actually all just functions that take a request and a response, and then they take another function called next. So it has passed 3 functions. If I don't want the request, what I do is I just call next. So here I can say console.log don't want it, like that. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart my server. And I'm going to go back here, and it still generates the page, and you'll see we've generated the output don't want it. So we have actually written our own little middleware component here that doesn't do anything interesting at all. If, however, I do want it, so let me say if rec.url equals moo cow, like that, then what I can say is I can say res.end woo, and then we'll just return. So I will never call the next function. Okay, so now we'll restart our server. And now I'm going to, instead of asking for pages home, I'm going to ask for moo cow. And I totally did that wrong because I forgot to put a slash on it, like that. So let's start it up. So you'll see if we see that the URL is moo cow like this, then we just print out some output. So again, my middleware component, if I see the URL that I want, then I just call end, and then I don't call the next function, which means none of these routes and nothing here is actually called. So that gives you an insight into how these sort of gets, puts, posts, and delete methods work. They basically say, does the request URL match my thing? If it does, call my handler and don't call next. If it doesn't match, call the next function and continue through and execute the next middleware component, or in this case, the next route in the chain of things. So that's the basics of how this sort of middleware components work. It's very, very basic and very, very cool. Back to the web browser here, you'll see there's quite a lot of them here, and I'm going to cover a few of them in subsequent parts. And then again, Express comes with some really key critical ones that we'll use pretty much in most web applications we build. However, you're not limited to using the ones that connect and express right. Again, since we just saw here, a middleware component is really just a function that takes a request, a response, and a next and can process the data however it wants. People, understandably, have gone ahead and written their own. So let's look for middleware connect, and let's see what we get. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. You'll actually see that people have written a ton of their own middleware components that you can download and add and work with in your web applications. And you, of course, can write your own and publish them. So you have a ton of options and a ton of ways and interesting functionality you can add to your web applications. And it's all done through just the simple use of this app.use call.